Well, I think, so for the daily, helping Henry cope with the daily routine. So one thing that, he's little, he's 3, and one of the things that we've done is, so he has to get either finger or toe, and he has not been interested in having his toes poked to do the blood check. So one thing that has helped with him is that we talk to his fingers, and we'll say, like in the morning, every morning, we'll say, "Good morning, finger. It's time to check your blood." And so he'll hold out his finger, and sometimes he has a great imagination. Sometimes the finger will talk to us, and that has really helped because it's I don't know if it's helped him separate, like it's his finger and not him getting the poke. I don't know, but that really has helped him. It's hilarious. And you have to change fingers because he always holds out the same finger, and it'll get a callus, and then it's hard to get the lancet in there. So we have to change fingers, and we have to talk to, we talk to his fingers and say, okay, it's his finger's turn, And that's helped him a lot because he's so little. And then with shots, there's different places on your body where you can give shots of insulin. You can do arms, the legs, your bum, where you can do, if you have enough fat, you can do your stomach. With Henry, he doesn't really have enough fat in his stomach yet, so we haven't done that yet. But he only wants to do his arms, which if you do insulin too much in the same spot, it will stop being effective. So we've had to, in the morning when I give him his baseline shot, I always give his other insulin shot to his bum too, just to give his arms a little bit of a break. But it's really helped. One of the things that's helped is he doesn't have any choice in this. So we try and give him as many choices as he can have. So he chooses which arm. He doesn't have a choice of whether or not to get the insulin, but he has a choice of which arm. And then usually with fingers, we try and let him choose, except that he holds out the same one. So that's really helped a lot. I think the biggest thing that I've learned, which my husband needs to get better at, is if you say, okay, it's time for your shot. Where do you want your shot? It's going to be okay. If you take time, it makes it worse. Whereas I'll say, okay, it's time for insulin. Which arm? And he'll hold up an arm. I'll push up his sleeve if he has long sleeves, and I just do it. There's no prelude. There's no, I'm so sorry, this is hard, and because that just makes it worse. And that's when he cries, as if somebody, like his grandparents, that's been a whole other challenge, is having family members help. They, especially grandmas, have a hard time. They don't want to hurt him. And so sometimes I'll just have to say, just do it. Just give him the shot. You can't, make a big deal of it. So there's that. That's helped a lot. I think he knows the routine too. He knows that before every meal we check his blood, and then after every meal he'll get insulin. The other thing that's helped too is there are certain foods that don't have carbs or don't have a lot of carbs, so they call them free foods, so he can have it without insulin. And so I'll give him a choice in his snacks. If he tells me he's hungry, he wants a snack, I'll say, okay, you can have nuts, or you can have a fruit snack, but you have to have insulin if you have a fruit snack. And now he'll tell me, that's okay, I want a fruit snack. And then he knows he's going to get insulin. But other times he'll say, I want nuts instead. So giving him that kind of choice, like he understands now that there are certain foods that he can have that he doesn't have to have insulin. So like nuts and cheese and most meat he can have with no insulin. So that's been really good too. We have a friend whose daughter is type 1 also, and she's this cheese connoisseur now. She likes all different kinds of cheeses because she knows she doesn't have to have insulin. Let's see, so I guess one thing that's been hard is the first time Henry got sick after his diagnosis, and everything was really difficult because I didn't know what to do. We've learned with Henry that when he has a fever, he gets ketones, which are the body's defense into breaking up food. If it can't get insulin, it sends out ketones to try and make up for the fact that it doesn't have insulin. I'm not so great at the science of that, but I know that that's what happens. But ketones are really dangerous. That's what sends a diabetic into vomiting and really scary episodes. So the first time that Henry was sick, they have a little, it's like the glucose monitor, but it checks your blood for ketones. And I called the emergency hotline. We're with Primary Children's in Salt Lake, is where his endocrinologist is. And I called their emergency hotline and said, Henry's really sick. I don't know what to do. He's not, his blood sugar's all over the place. No matter how much insulin I give him, it's not going down. And so she had me check his ketones. And when he has ketones, we give him 1.5 of what I normally would give him for insulin. So like right now, if he has 15 carbs of a snack, I give him half a unit of insulin. So when he has ketones, I give him 3/4 of a unit. And then that will get rid of the ketones. And once we get rid of his ketones, he's like feeling so much better. But that's really scary. I remember right after we moved into our new house, so we didn't know anybody in the area. My husband had to go out of town. The week we moved into our house, he had to go out of town for work, and Henry got sick. And it was the middle of the night, and I remember he woke up and he was crying, and he didn't feel good, and so I checked his blood, and he was really high, like in the 400s. And so I gave him insulin, and this was before I knew how to take, this was his first time really getting sick, actually. And he just wasn't getting better, and he kept waking up crying, and so I called the emergency hotline just in tears and talked to a doctor, and they explained what to do, and so I gave him 1.5 of what he needed. And then the nice thing was, even though we were alone, I thought I was going to have to take him to the emergency room, and I had a baby too. And I was thinking in my mind, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to handle having the baby and having him in the emergency room by myself? Because I don't know anybody. Anyway, the nice thing was this Primary Children's called us back within a few hours, even though it was the middle of the night. They called us back, it was like 4 a.m, and said, how's Henry doing? Are his ketones down? Do you guys need anything? They were just really, really supportive, which I really needed. And then they called us again later the next day to make sure that he was doing better. And that was awesome. Now I just don't even, when he gets sick, I immediately check for ketones. And I'm not so scared now because I know how to handle it. When I didn't know what to do, it was really scary. But now I just know, like, I'm not afraid to call the doctor. Before I sort of felt like I was an inconvenience calling them in the middle of the night, and now I think, they really care too. They want him to be healthy just like I do. Not as much as I do, obviously, but the fact that they called us back twice, and so now I just immediately, if I feel any kind of nervous or anything, I just call them and say, this is what's going on, and even if all they do is say you're doing the right thing, it's so nice to have someone support. So